Tyler sat alone at the bar in a fancy restaurant in Los Angeles, his mind full of anger, shame, and regret. He had just been fired from his job that morning. His boss told him he wasn't cut out for management, even though Tyler had given everything to that company. He had skipped birthdays, holidays, and even his sister's wedding, all for a promotion that never came. And now he was jobless, broke, and full of rage. He wasn't drunk yet, but he had started drinking fast, glass after glass. His hands were shaking as he looked around the crowded room. People were laughing, dressed in expensive clothes, ordering food he couldn't afford. Even when he had a job, Tyler felt like the world had cheated him, and that everyone else was winning except him. That's when a man accidentally bumped into him from behind. A glass of water spilled slightly, splashing onto Tyler's already wrinkled shirt. The man turned quickly and said, "I'm so sorry." But something inside Tyler snapped. He didn't care who the man was. All he saw was another rich guy, well-dressed, calm, with perfect manners. Tyler stood up fast, his heart racing, and, before he could think, he raised his hand and slapped the man across the face. The sound echoed through the restaurant. Everyone stopped. Forks froze in midair. A woman near the window gasped loudly. Someone dropped their phone. The man Tyler slapped took a step back, holding his cheek. Not in pain, but in complete surprise. The man didn't fight back. He didn't yell. Instead, he looked at Tyler with the calmest eyes anyone had ever seen. His voice was soft when he asked, "Are you okay?" Tyler's breathing was heavy and his fist was still clenched. But that question hit harder than anything else because it wasn't angry. It wasn't proud. It was full of concern. Tyler suddenly felt like the villain in his own life. And for the first time in years, he had no words, no excuses, just silence. A waiter rushed forward and asked if everything was all right, but the man raised a hand gently and said, "It's fine, no need for trouble." He gave Tyler one last look, sad, not angry, and quietly walked away toward a side door. The entire room stayed quiet for a moment. Then the whispers started. "That was Keanu Reeves," someone said. "No way, that can't be, can it? Look at the video I got it on camera." Tyler's stomach twisted. He felt like falling through the floor. Keanu Reeves, the actor known for his kindness and humility, the man who played heroes on screen and helped strangers in real life, the man who had just been slapped in public and didn't even raise a hand in return. Tyler sat down slowly, the weight of what he had done crashing down like a wave. He had slapped Keanu Reeves, the man who had only shown him kindness, and now the entire restaurant knew. People were whispering, pointing phones, recording, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others quietly laughing, but no one was on Tyler's side. He pulled out his wallet to pay for his drinks and leave, but the bartender shook his head. "It's covered," he said coldly, "but I think you should go now." Outside, Tyler stood on the sidewalk, the cool night air hitting his face. He couldn't think straight. What had he just done? Why had he done it? There were no answers, only shame, guilt, and fear. He walked quickly down the street, not knowing where to go, afraid to look at his phone, afraid to check social media. But he knew, he just knew, that someone had recorded the whole thing, and it would spread like wildfire. And he was right. That slap would not just be a personal mistake, it would become the most watched clip on the internet within hours. But Tyler didn't know that yet. He was still walking, trying to disappear, into the night, not knowing that this one moment of anger would destroy his job, his relationships, and almost his entire life. But he also didn't know something else, that the man he slapped would not try to ruin him. Instead, Keanu Reeves would quietly wait for the right moment to do something that would shock the world even more than the slap itself. Because sometimes true strength is not in fighting back. It's in choosing kindness, even when you don't have to. And Keanu had made that choice right in front of everyone. The story of that one moment was only beginning, and the world had no idea what would happen next, but Tyler's life had already changed. He just didn't know how deep that change would go yet, or that it might one day save him from himself because of one question that still echoed in his mind. "Are you okay?" Keanu had asked, and Tyler for the first time realized he wasn't, not even close. Tyler didn't sleep that night. He just kept walking through the city streets. His phone buzzed over and over in his pocket, but he was too scared to check it. Deep down, he knew what was happening. The moment he slapped Keanu Reeves in that restaurant had been caught on camera. Someone must have recorded it. Probably more than one person. And now the whole world would know what he had done. As the sky turned orange and the sun rose, Tyler finally sat on a park bench, exhausted, hungry, and full of regret. His hands were shaking as he pulled out his phone. There were over 100 missed notifications, texts, emails, and social media messages. He slowly opened one of the videos that had been posted online. The title read, "Man slaps Keanu Reeves in LA restaurant. You won't believe what Keanu did next." Tyler watched the clip the same moment he had lived, but now through the eyes of the internet, he saw himself standing up, angry and drunk, his face twisted in rage, and then the sound of the slap echoed clearly, followed by the quiet voice of Keanu asking, "Are you okay?" The video ended with gasps from the crowd and someone whispering, "That's Keanu Reeves." It had already gotten over 2 million views. The comments were pouring in. "Who is this loser who hit Keanu? Find this guy and cancel him. Keanu is too pure for this world. Imagine slapping John Wick and surviving." Some people joked, others were angry, but almost no one defended Tyler. Some even found his social media accounts posting his name, job history, photos of his house, and even his old high school info. Within hours, Tyler had gone from a nobody to the most hated man on the internet. His phone rang again. It was his friend Liam. Tyler finally answered, but Liam didn't sound friendly. "What the hell did you do, man?" Liam shouted. "You slapped Keanu Reeves? Seriously? Are you trying to get your life ruined?" Tyler tried to explain, but the words didn't come out right. He just muttered, "I didn't know it was him." But Liam didn't care. "Everyone knows now, dude. Your face is all over TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. People are calling for your head." Then Liam hung up. Next came a message from his brother Jake. It simply said, "You need help. Don't contact me until you figure yourself out." Tyler stared at the screen, feeling like the whole world had turned against him in a single night. He opened his work email to see if maybe he still had a chance. But at the top was a message from HR. "Due to the events in the video currently circulating online, your contract is terminated immediately. Please do not return to the office." Just like that, it was official. He had no job, no support, and no future. Tyler buried his face in his hands and sat quietly for hours, thinking about how everything fell apart so fast. He knew he had made a mistake, but he didn't know it would destroy everything in his life. As the day went on, news channels picked up the story. They didn't say his full name at first, but it didn't matter. The internet already had all the details. A famous talk show even joked about the video. "Well, folks, someone actually slapped Keanu Reeves and lived to regret it." The audience laughed, but Tyler didn't find it funny at all. That night, when he returned to his apartment, he found a note stuck to the door. It read, "We don't want a violent man like you living here. Your lease is canceled. Pack up and leave by tomorrow." His heart dropped. It was signed by the landlord, who must have seen the video too. Tyler sat on the floor of his apartment staring at the walls. He had no job, no home, and no one to talk to. Even his girlfriend Emma had blocked him on every app. She left one message before disappearing. "I can't be with someone who lashes out like that, especially at someone kind like Keanu." It was too much. Tyler couldn't stop the spiral. The more he thought about it, the more he hated himself. Why had he lost control? Why had he been so angry? He kept thinking about Keanu's calm voice asking him if he was okay. Not yelling, not fighting, just showing concern. And that made the guilt even worse. For the next few days, Tyler avoided everyone. He didn't go outside. He didn't answer any calls. He lived on instant noodles and cold water, afraid to show his face. People were still talking about him online, even creating memes calling him the slapper and turning him into a joke. But Keanu Reeves never posted anything, never said anything to the press. He stayed silent, and that silence felt heavier than all the shouting online. Then something strange happened. A quiet knock came on Tyler's door. He froze, not expecting anyone when he opened it. There was a man in a dark suit holding an envelope. He handed it over without a word, then left. Tyler opened the envelope with shaky hands. Inside was a simple note, handwritten, I've made mistakes too, Tyler. You're not your worst moment. If you ever want to talk, meet me here. There was a time, a date, and an address. Tyler stared at the paper, his heart pounding. He read it over and over. It didn't make sense. Why would Keanu Reeves reach out to him after everything? Why offer kindness to the man who slapped him? And just like that, the story took a turn Tyler never saw coming. Tyler sat on the floor of his empty apartment, still holding the letter from Keanu Reeves. He had read it 100 times, his fingers tracing the words like they were magic. It didn't feel real. Why would someone like Keanu, who had every right to hate him, send such a kind and understanding message? Tyler didn't know, but deep inside, he felt something strange. Hope, for the first time in days, but that hope wasn't strong enough to erase the pain in the last 72 hours. Tyler had lost everything: his job, his home, his girlfriend, and his reputation. People continued to mock him online, calling him names, turning him into a joke. Memes were everywhere, some showing him getting slapped back by movie versions of Keanu, others comparing him to villains from films. Tyler tried to laugh at first, but it only made him feel worse. His landlord came the next morning, not to talk, but to remind him, "You've got till tonight to be out." Tyler packed his clothes into 2 bags, grabbed his laptop, and stuffed the letter in his coat pocket. With nowhere to go, he walked out of the building and didn't look back. His entire life fit into those bags, but his heart felt heavier than both. He tried calling a few friends for a place to stay, but most didn't answer. One replied, "Sorry, man, too much drama. I don't want that kind of heat." Another said, "You embarrassed all of us." It hurt more than he expected. He never thought one mistake could make him so alone. By nightfall, Tyler found himself sitting on a bench at a bus stop, his coat zipped up tightly, his stomach empty. The city lights buzzed around him, but he felt like he was sinking in darkness. He looked down at the letter again. The meeting place was for tomorrow evening, but a voice in his head said it was a trick. Maybe Keanu was just being polite. Maybe it was a setup for more embarrassment, or maybe, just maybe, it was real. The next day came slowly. Tyler spent the morning walking through the city, past streets filled with people who didn't know who he was. That felt better, being invisible, not judged, just lost in a crowd. He found a small park where he rested and waited for the hours to pass. Finally, as the sun began to set, he stood up and made his way to the address written on the letter. It wasn't a fancy hotel or an office building. It was a community shelter, small and quiet, tucked between old brick buildings. There was no security, no reporters, no flashing cameras, just a plain metal door and a small sign that read, "Hope Haven Center." Tyler's hand trembled as he pushed the door open. Inside, he saw rows of tables, a kitchen in the back, and a few volunteers moving around with food trays. Then he spotted him, Keanu Reeves, wearing an apron, sleeves rolled up, serving hot soup to a group of homeless people with a soft smile on his face. Tyler froze, his heart pounding. He expected bodyguards or someone to stop him, but no one did. Keanu noticed him standing near the door and smiled. Not a fake smile, but one that felt warm, real. "You came," Keanu said gently, walking over. Tyler looked down, ashamed. I didn't know where else to go," he mumbled. Keanu nodded. "You don't need to say anything. Come help me serve dinner." And just like that, they walked to the kitchen together. No long speech, no questions. Keanu handed him a pair of gloves and a spoon, and they began working side by side, serving warm meals to people who had even less than Tyler. The work was simple, but it felt like something bigger. Tyler watched Keanu talk to every guest with kindness, never judging, always smiling. He even gave one old man his own jacket because the man said he was cold. Keanu didn't act like a movie star. He acted like a man who had known pain and wanted to ease it in others. Later that night, when the dinner rush slowed down, they sat outside on the back steps of the shelter. Tyler finally spoke. "Why did you ask me to come?" His voice was low, almost afraid of the answer. Keanu looked up at the sky for a moment, then said, "Because I've made mistakes too, and someone once gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it." He paused, then added, "I don't think you're a bad person. I think you were hurting. And pain makes us do stupid things, but pain doesn't have to define us." Tyler felt a lump in his throat. No one had ever spoken to him like that, especially not after everything he had done. "I ruined my life," he whispered. "Maybe," Keanu replied. "But you're still here, which means it's not over." They sat in silence for a while, not needing to fill it with words, for the first time. Tyler felt like someone saw him. Not the angry man from the video, not the internet joke, but the broken human underneath. When he finally stood to leave, Keanu handed him a small paper bag. "There's food in there, and my number, if you ever want to come back." Tyler took it with both hands, his voice shaky. "Thank you, I don't deserve this." Keanu smiled. "Maybe not, but that's what kindness is. It's not about who deserves it." As Tyler walked away into the night, he felt something shift inside him. He still didn't know what came next, but he knew one thing for sure. He didn't want to be the man in that video anymore. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to be. Not if he kept walking towards something better, one step at a time. Tyler didn't sleep much that night. He kept thinking about everything that had happened at the shelter. The way Keanu had smiled at him. The way no one had treated him like a criminal or a monster. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like garbage. He still felt lost. But now there was a small voice in his heart saying, "Maybe you can fix this. Maybe you can start again." The next morning, Tyler woke up on a park bench with the paper bag still clutched to his chest. Inside was a sandwich, a water bottle, and a folded napkin with a phone number, Keanu's number, written in neat handwriting. He stared at it for a long time, unsure if he had the courage to use it. What would he say? What if Keanu changed his mind? What if it was a test? He didn't call, but he went back to the shelter. Not because he wanted to impress anyone, but because he needed to feel useful again. He wanted to help, to do something good, even if no one noticed. He walked through the same doors, unsure if anyone would remember him, but one of the volunteers, an older lady named Marta, smiled and handed him gloves. "Glad you're back," she said softly. Tyler spent the whole day serving meals, wiping tables, cleaning dishes. No one asked about the video. No one brought up the slap. They just treated him like one of them, like someone who wanted to help, and that made him want to stay longer, to work harder, when the last meal was served and the last chair was stacked. Keanu appeared again, quietly, like he had always been there. "You came back," Keanu said. "Yeah," Tyler replied, his voice unsure. "I didn't know what else to do." Keanu nodded. "Sometimes that's the best reason." They didn't talk much after that, but Keanu gave him another sandwich and walked him out the door. Tyler felt like he had passed some invisible test. The days turned into a week, and Tyler returned to the shelter every morning. He swept floors, cleaned bathrooms, lifted boxes, anything to stay busy. Marta started, calling him the quiet one. But she always gave him an extra slice of bread. One of the other volunteers, a teenager named Ben, said, "You're stronger than you look." That made Tyler smile for the first time in days. Each night, Keanu would show up near closing, not as a boss, but as someone who listened. Sometimes he told stories about his life, things Tyler had never heard before. Keanu talked about losing people he loved, about being broke when he was young, about walking for hours just to get away from the noise. Tyler listened like a student, amazed that someone so famous had been through so much pain, and still chose kindness. One night as they were taking out the trash, Tyler asked quietly, "Why do you keep coming here?" Keanu looked at the stars for a long moment, then said, "Because I remember what it feels like to be invisible, and I don't want anyone else to feel that way." That line stayed with Tyler. It echoed in his head like a bell. Tyler still didn't have a job or a home. He slept wherever he could, sometimes under bridges, sometimes behind quiet buildings, but during the day he had the shelter. He had something to do, and more importantly, he had someone who believed in him. He started talking more, smiling more, helping more. Even when his feet hurt and his back ached, he kept showing up. One afternoon, Marta pulled him aside and said, "You've been coming here for weeks now. You know we have a small program, temporary beds and job training." Tyler's eyes widened. Really? He asked. Even for someone like me? Marta smiled. Especially for someone like you. That night he told Keanu about it. Do you think I should try? He asked. Only if you're ready, Keanu replied. It's not about earning forgiveness, it's about learning how to forgive yourself. Those words hit Tyler hard. He hadn't thought about forgiving himself. He thought he had to suffer forever for that slap. But Keanu kept reminding him, one moment doesn't define a person. What they do next does. Tyler joined the program. It wasn't easy. He had to wake up early, follow rules, attend classes, and take small jobs. Sometimes cleaning alleys. Sometimes helping build small shelters, but it gave him routine, structure, and slowly, it gave him confidence. He even stopped checking his phone every hour. The hate online was still there, but it didn't hurt as much anymore because he was becoming someone better than the man in that video. One evening after class, Keanu waited for him outside. They walked silently to a quiet bench. Keanu handed him a small notebook. Write it down, he said. Every time you feel angry or sad or useless, write it down. Tyler opened the notebook and wrote just one sentence, I don't want to be him anymore. Keanu read it, nodded and said, then you're already on the right path. That night, Tyler lay in his small bed at the shelter staring at the ceiling. The mattress was rough, the room was shared, but he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. The path was long, and the world hadn't forgotten. But maybe, just maybe, one man's kindness was enough to help him remember who he really was. And for the first time since that terrible night, Tyler believed he had a future, not because of fame or forgiveness, but because someone had shown him what true kindness really looked like. Tyler stood in the small kitchen of the shelter, wearing an apron and washing dishes. His hands were sore, his back ached, but there was a quiet smile on his face. He had been coming here for weeks now, and the work no longer felt like a punishment. It felt like purpose. Something inside him had changed little by little. The anger and shame were still there, but they no longer controlled him. He still thought about that slap sometimes, especially late at night. He could still see Keanu's face, the shock, the calm voice asking, are you okay? But now, instead of guilt, he remembered what came after. The letter, the shelter, the quiet kindness. Keanu had forgiven him without ever saying the words, and that had opened a door Tyler never thought existed. Each day, Tyler worked harder. Than the last, he helped carry heavy boxes of food, cleaned the bathrooms without being asked, and stayed late to fix broken chairs. The staff started trusting him more. Marta even gave him a small set of keys and asked him to open up the shelter one morning. That made Tyler feel something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. One afternoon, while setting up the dinner tables, Tyler heard a familiar voice behind him. You've gotten good at this. He turned around and saw Keanu standing there with a soft smile. I'm trying, Tyler replied, wiping his hands on a towel. Keanu looked around the room and said, you've done more than try, you're becoming part of this place. They worked together that evening side by side, handing out food to people who had lost everything. Some smiled, others said nothing, but each one looked thankful. Keanu always took time to ask each person how they were doing, and Tyler started doing the same. One man named Leo had lost his job and family in the same week. Another woman named Sarah had been living in her car with 2 kids. Tyler listened to their stories and nodded. He didn't judge. He just understood. Later that night, after cleanup, Keanu and Tyler sat on the back steps again. The sky above them was dark, and a cool wind moved through the alley. Tyler finally asked the question that had been in his heart for a long time. Why didn't you press charges against me? His voice was low, full of confusion. Keanu looked at him for a moment, then said, because I knew you weren't a bad person. I saw pain in your eyes, not hate, and I've seen what happens when people give up on others. He paused before adding, you reminded me of someone I used to know, someone who needed a second chance and never got one. Tyler's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say, so he just whispered, thank you. But Keanu shook his head. Don't thank me, thank yourself. You showed up, you stayed, you did the work. The next day, Marta surprised Tyler with news. "We've nominated you for the Helper of the Month," she said with a wink. "It's just a small thing, but you deserve it." Tyler couldn't believe it. People were noticing him, not for his mistakes, but for his effort, for who he was becoming. That night, Keanu handed him an envelope with a small card inside. It was an invitation to a community awards event, not a Hollywood show, just a local gathering to honor people helping others. "I'll be there too," Keanu said. "You're not alone." Tyler felt nervous, unsure if he even deserved to be recognized, but Keanu reminded him, "It's not about erasing the past, it's about building something better." The award night arrived, and Tyler wore the best clothes he had, just a clean shirt and old slacks. The event was held in a small hall, decorated with handmade banners and soft lights. Families, volunteers, and community members filled the room. When Tyler's name was called, he walked slowly to the stage, his heart pounding. He didn't see it right away, but standing at the side of the stage was Keanu, holding the small award plaque. The moment Tyler stepped up, Keanu smiled and said, "For the man who proved that a mistake is not the end, it can be the beginning." The crowd clapped, not because Tyler was famous, but because they had seen his journey. They had watched him clean tables, help the elderly, and speak kindly to strangers. This applause wasn't for the man who slapped a celebrity. It was for the man who showed up every day and chose to change. As Tyler accepted the award, he looked out at the crowd and saw faces full of warmth, not judgment. He didn't give a long speech. He just said, "I did something terrible once, but someone chose to see more in me, and now I want to be that person for someone else." That simple sentence made the room go quiet. Then came even louder applause. After the event, Keanu stood beside him and said, "You earned this." Tyler nodded, tears in his eyes. "I'm not that guy anymore," he whispered. Keanu put a hand on his shoulder. "You never were. You were just lost." That night, as Tyler walked home with the plaque in his hands, he didn't feel broken. He didn't feel hated. He felt like he had a new name. Not the one the internet gave him, but the one he had earned himself. Helper, friend, and human. And that was worth more than forgiveness. It was the beginning of something real, something good, something he never thought he deserved. Until now, Tyler woke up early the next morning, still holding the small plaque in his hands. He couldn't stop staring at it. It wasn't made of gold or crystal. It was simple wood. But to him, it felt like a crown, not because it proved he was good, but because it reminded him that change was possible. It reminded him of how far he had come. For the first time in months, Tyler felt strong. Not strong in muscle, but strong in purpose. He had fallen hard in front of the entire world, but now he was climbing, and this time he wasn't climbing alone. Every person at the shelter, every kind word from Marta, every silent nod from Keanu, they had all helped pull him out of the darkness. That day at the shelter, something felt different. People looked at him not with pity, but with respect. Even new volunteers came up to shake his hand. One woman said, "You're the guy from the video, but now you're the one helping everyone." Tyler didn't know how to respond. He just smiled and kept working. He didn't want to be known for that slap anymore. He wanted to be known for the hands that helped, not the hand that hit. Later, while unloading boxes of donated clothes, Tyler found a boy about 10 years old sitting on the sidewalk outside the shelter. He looked scared, tired, and hungry. Tyler knelt beside him and asked, "You okay, buddy?" The boy didn't speak, just pointed to his thin stomach. Tyler gave him a sandwich and water, then brought him inside. As they sat together, the boy finally spoke in a soft voice. "My mom told me to wait here. She said someone would help." Tyler's heart ached. He had seen that same fear in the mirror many times before. He told the boy, "You're safe now, I promise," and he meant it. That night, Keanu returned as usual, wearing a simple hoodie and jeans, no cameras, no spotlight, just him and that calm presence. Tyler told him about the boy, and Keanu nodded. "You did good," he said. "You saw someone hurting and you didn't walk away." Tyler looked at him and said, "Like you did for me." Keanu smiled. "That's the whole point, isn't it? To keep passing it on." The next few weeks passed quickly. Tyler got more involved in the shelter's programs. He started mentoring new volunteers, showing them how to manage the kitchen, talk with guests, and handle emergencies. He didn't shout or command. He led by doing, by listening, and by treating everyone like a human being. One evening, Marta called him into the office. Her eyes looked serious. "There's something you should know," she said, handing him a tablet. It showed a news article from a major site. The headline read, "From infamous to inspiring, the man who slapped Keanu is now a local hero." Tyler's heart dropped. The story included a photo of him handing soup to a guest. With Keanu in the background, he was afraid at first, afraid the past would come back and ruin the progress he had made. "I didn't want this," he said quietly, but Marta touched his arm. "The story doesn't mock you this time, Tyler. It celebrates your journey." She paused, then added, "It's honest and people need to read things like this." Later that night, Keanu sat beside him on the steps. Again, as if they were old friends, Tyler held the tablet and asked, "Why didn't you stop this article?" Keanu leaned back and said, "Because it's not just your story anymore, it belongs to everyone who thinks they're stuck forever. Now they can see that change is real." Tyler didn't know what to say. He had once been a man hated by millions. Now strangers were commenting. He turned it around. Everyone deserves a second chance. Keanu knew what he was doing. One comment stood out to him. If Keanu can forgive, maybe we all can learn to. That night, as he walked back to his shelter bed, Tyler noticed a woman sitting alone in the hallway. She looked lost, like he used to be. He sat beside her and said, "Rough night?" She nodded but didn't speak, so he simply stayed, not judging, not pushing, just being there. Because that's what Keanu had done for him. Every day, Tyler continued building, not just himself, but the world around him. A small world, maybe, but one full of meaning. He found peace in helping others, not because it made him famous, but because it made him whole. The more he gave, the more he healed. Keanu didn't come every day, but he didn't need to. His words lived inside Tyler now, not as instructions, but as a quiet reminder. You are not your worst moment. And now, Tyler believed that with all his heart. He still had scars from his past, but they didn't define him anymore. They were just proof that he had survived, proof that even when the world laughed at him, one man had seen something more, and that one act of kindness had changed everything, because sometimes it only takes one hand reaching out to stop someone from falling, and sometimes the hand that once did harm becomes the hand that heals. Tyler stood outside the shelter one morning looking at the rising sun. The sky was painted in soft colors, and for the first time in his life, he felt calm just watching it. The wind was cool, the air smelled like fresh bread from the kitchen, and his heart felt steady. Not perfect, but steady. It had been weeks since the award night, and people still came up to him saying, "You're the guy who changed." But Tyler didn't think about fame or forgiveness anymore. He just thought about what needed to be done each day: clean the floors, serve the meals, talk to the people who were forgotten by the world. He wasn't trying to fix the whole planet, he was just trying to be better than the man he once was. One afternoon, while stacking supplies in the storage room, Marta walked in with a newspaper in her hand. "You're in here again," she smiled. Tyler wiped the sweat off his face and asked, "Is it bad this time?" She laughed. "No, it's good, really good." She handed him the paper, and he saw a headline that made his eyes widen. "The Redemption Worker, man who once went viral for slapping Keanu, now changes lives." The article talked about his daily work at the shelter, how he helped dozens of people find jobs, how he repaired broken things without being asked, how he stayed late to make sure no one slept outside. There was even a photo of him helping a child tie his shoes. Tyler stared at it, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. "They didn't even mention the slap," he whispered. Marta nodded. "Because now you're known for what you do, not what you did." That line stayed with him all day. Later that week, the shelter held a small community event. They had games for kids, food stands, music, and a board where people could write thank you notes. Tyler walked by it and saw his name written again and again. "Thank you, Tyler, for the blanket. Tyler, Made me smile when I thought no one cared. Tyler listens. That means more than food. He couldn't hold back the tears. As the event went on, he noticed Keanu standing quietly by the edge of the crowd, not drawing attention, just watching. Tyler walked up and said, "You came." Keanu smiled. Of course I did, I wouldn't miss this. They sat on a bench watching children play with balloons and volunteers handing out hot dogs. Tyler turned to him and asked, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you didn't send that letter?" Keanu looked thoughtful, then said, "All the time, but I don't think the letter changed your life, Tyler. I think you did." Tyler shook his head. "But you gave me the chance." Keanu leaned back and said, "We all get chances, some big, some small, but the real change happens when someone chooses to step through the door." That night, Tyler received another surprise, a letter from the mayor's office. It invited him to speak at a local school as part of a kindness and growth program. He had never spoken in front of kids before, and the thought made his palms sweat, but Marta encouraged him. "Just tell the truth," she said. "That's all they need." The next week, Tyler stood in front of 50 high school students, nervous but honest. He told them everything, how he was angry, lost, how one mistake almost ended everything, but how one person's quiet kindness gave him a second chance, and how now he chose every day to make that chance mean something. When he finished, a young girl raised her hand and asked, "How do you forgive yourself?" The question hit him hard. He thought for a moment and said, "You don't do it in one day, you do it every time you choose to do the right thing, even when it's small, even when it's hard." The students clapped, and some even came up afterward to shake his hand. Word spread again, this time in a good way. More schools invited him to speak. More people showed up at the shelter to volunteer. Some even came just to meet the man from the story. But Tyler never acted like a hero. He still cleaned dishes, still mopped the floors, still made sandwiches with his sleeves rolled up. One night, while walking back to his room, he saw a man sitting outside the shelter, cold, tired, and broken. The man looked up and said, "I saw you in the paper, are you real?" Tyler smiled, handed him a blanket and said, "Yeah, I'm real, and I've been where you are." The man's eyes filled with tears and he whispered, "Then maybe I'm not finished yet." Tyler sat beside him. Just like Keanu had done for him, the circle had completed itself. One man changed Tyler's life with kindness, and now Tyler was doing the same for others, not to erase his past, but to honor the future he had chosen, and the best part was, he was just getting started. The day of the Community Heroes event arrived quietly. Tyler didn't even know he was going to be part of it until Marta handed him a letter. She smiled and said, "You should wear something nice tonight." Tyler looked confused. "Me? Why?" Marta just shook her head. "You'll see." That evening, the hall was filled with families, teachers, workers, and local volunteers. It wasn't a big Hollywood event. There were no flashing cameras. But to Tyler, it felt even more important, because these were real people. People who cared about their neighbors. People who worked hard in silence, not for fame, but for love of others. Tyler sat in the crowd, trying to blend in, still unsure why Marta had made him come. The mayor walked onto the stage and began calling up names. Each person was honored, for something small but powerful. A woman who started a food drive in her garage, a firefighter who rescued a dog, a teacher who stayed after hours to help struggling kids. The applause for each one was warm and genuine. Tyler clapped for them too, happy to see people being recognized. Then the mayor paused, smiled, and said, "And now, our final recognition goes to someone who taught us that a mistake does not end a story, someone who showed us that change is possible, someone who reminded us all of the power of kindness. Please welcome Tyler." Tyler froze in his chair. His heart started pounding. He looked at Marta, who gave him a little push and whispered, "Go." His legs felt heavy as he walked up the stage. The lights were bright, and he could hear the sound of applause filling the hall. He didn't feel like he deserved it, not after everything. But he kept walking until he stood at the center, his hands shaking. And then he saw him, standing at the side of the stage, holding a small plaque, was Keanu Reeves. The room gasped and then erupted in cheers, not because Keanu was famous, but because everyone realized he was there to honor Tyler. Tyler's eyes filled with tears as Keanu stepped forward, smiling warmly. He held out the plaque and said into the microphone, "For the man who proved to all of us that you are not your worst moment, but what you choose to do after it." The applause grew louder. People stood on their feet, some even wiping away tears. Tyler reached out with trembling hands and took the plaque, but Keanu didn't just give it to him. He pulled him into a hug, whispering, "I'm proud of you." Tyler could barely breathe. He whispered back, "I wouldn't be here without you." Keanu shook his head gently and said, "No, you wouldn't be here without yourself. You made the choice to change. I just held the door open." The two men stood there for a moment and the crowd kept clapping. Tyler turned to face everyone. He wasn't a public speaker, but he knew he had to say something. He took a deep breath and said, "I was once a man who let anger control me. I made a mistake that the world saw, a mistake that could have destroyed me. But one man chose to show me kindness instead of punishment, and that kindness gave me the courage to try again." His voice cracked, but he kept going. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Your life isn't over because of one mistake. You can still write a new chapter. Every day you wake up, you get another chance." The hall went quiet for a moment. Then the applause returned, louder than before. People clapped, cheered, and some even shouted his name. Tyler looked at Keanu, who gave him a small nod. That nod told him everything. He had finally redeemed himself. After the event, people came up to shake his hand. Strangers thanked him for sharing his story. A young man said, "I've made mistakes too, but now I feel like maybe I can turn it around." An older woman said, "My son is lost right now, but you give me hope." Each word filled Tyler's heart with something new, purpose. Later that night, Tyler and Keanu sat outside the hall, away from the noise, just the two of them. Keanu lit a small candle on the table between them and said, "You know, Tyler, the world will forget the slap, but they'll never forget what you did after." Tyler smiled softly. "I hope so, but even if they do, I'll remember. That's enough." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Keep passing it on, that's all I ask." Tyler nodded. "I will." As they parted ways, Tyler looked up at the night sky. The stars were brighter than he had ever noticed before. He felt lighter, not because the world forgave him, but because he had finally forgiven himself. The shame that once drowned him was gone, replaced with something stronger, a quiet belief that he could keep building, keep helping, keep living with purpose. The man who once slapped Keanu Reeves was no longer defined by that one mistake. He was defined by what came after, by the lives he touched, by the kindness he gave. And from that night on, whenever people saw him, they didn't see anger, they didn't see shame, they saw hope. Because Tyler's life was proof that anyone, no matter how far they fall, can rise again if someone believes in them, and if they choose to believe in themselves.